Hello, my wonderful people. Today is Monday, July 24th, 2023. Slavery, free labor, human trafficking. Slavery was an evil, demonic, sinful institution destroyed by a multiracial coalition better known as abolitionists. There's no greater example where silence is complicity. Slavery, human trafficking, is free labor. You work night and day and night, you're paid zero. And it's 24/7. It's a 24/7 opportunity to commit lustful, criminal activities on the slave woman, the slave man, and slave children where there are no consequences. That is slavery. 400 years of slavery. That should be taught.
I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it, but I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education.
Does anyone wonder why even Republican primary voters aren't into that guy? That was Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis defending, but not taking a lick of responsibility for his state's outrageous, inhumane, whitewash new education standards. We broke the news here on Friday, specifically the requirement in Florida for middle school teachers there to instruct this, quote, how slaves develop skills which, comma, in some instances, comma, could be applied for their personal benefit, end quote. Slavery. We know that in between the lines of DeSantis's claim that he, quote, wasn't involved in the disgraceful, appalling suggestion, despite his own law against wokeness, demanding exactly this sort of thing, and his stacking of the education board with loyalists, he knew it would obey him. It is perhaps some new fear that he's starting to have as he plunges in the polls about the effectiveness of his war on woke, key pillar of his struggling campaign to be president, where he also promises to eliminate entire U.S. agencies, including the Department of Education. Joining our coverage, chairman of the, actually no longer the chairman, our friend Eddie Glad is here from Princeton University. David Jelly is also back with us. Eddie, correct me once, and it sticks in my brain. Eddie, I want you to widen this out for me, because I think as a country, as a show, we're not going to do this, right? We're not going to even try to understand what they meant or what he meant. This is a stain on American history. And I think reality on Earth 2 wins when we take the bait, right? And even dignify the debate. I want you to tell me what you think is happening when Ron DeSantis stands at a podium and says, oh, I didn't do this. This wildly racist thing about not just erasing history, but then reteaching what slavery is. It benefited some people. What is that?
Well, I think he understands that there is a limit to the sorts of claims that one can make without being overtly racist, even though they have already been overtly racist, right? Because the worst thing that you can call some people in the United States is a racist, even though they may hold racist beliefs. I think part of what we see here is this idea that evil can be ministerial to good. This is what's being promulgated here. That is to say that the evil made good something, made possible something good. If it wasn't for slavery, black folk couldn't have become Christian. If it wasn't for slavery, these folk wouldn't have acquired the skill that will allow them to make a living after slavery. So this is a way, in some ways, of absolving oneself of the evil of slavery by pointing to the so-called good that it produced. And we know that is morally bankrupt as a claim, right? That's like saying the Nazi Holocaust was good because it gave us Anne Frank's diary. That doesn't make any sense on its face, right? So instead of confronting the evil for what it is, there's an attempt to absolve. So this connects back to the feeling of guilt, right? And this is at the heart of it. And it also connects to the question of addressing the ongoing legacy of racial inequality as a result of the institution of slavery itself.
But Eddie, I worry about there's something disorienting about it as well, right? And I worry that if by succeeding in disorienting, because you said that you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, and you've even got some Republicans, not enough for my appetite for clarity, but even a couple of Republicans are saying flat out, no, wrong. Survey says no. But there is something disorienting. And I think Republicans see the success Trump has had in disorienting his own base. And that feels like the other insidious piece of this.
Absolutely. It's disorienting because in some ways, it turns over the well, Nicole, to use Herman Melville's analogy. And what do you see on the bottom of the belly of the well? All of these barnacles, the detritus of American life. And that's what it does. It reveals who we are. When I first read the story, I got angry, as I often do, right? I got angry, and the reason I got angry is because I started worrying about all of those black and brown children who are going to have to read this mess. But then I thought about it, and I got angrier. I started worrying about the white children. See, the problem with our democracy, it seems to me, is that we're not the people. We're not the kinds of people that our democracies require. We don't exhibit the virtues of democracy, caring for the other. And here we have a form of education that will cut people off from aspects of their story that is central to the development of a character requisite for our democracy to function. And we know
Eddie,
what happens when this happens.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say this is why we're friends. I mean, I see this the same way, and I feel sick and sad and angry on all those levels, and then I go deeper, and I feel sick and sad and angry that there are people that buy it, right? I feel sick and sad and angry that DeSantis is selling it. I feel sick and sad and angry when I watch him stand there and say it's so repugnant, I didn't do it. And then I feel really sick and sad and angry about all the people that it'll impact. I also think that people that are putting this garbage into the education system haven't talked to a 10-year-old lately. They don't see color. They don't see all the hubbub with gender. A child isn't born with hate in their heart. And I really, really worry that not just this is being peddled, but that this is being bought. How do we solve this?
Well, we have to call it out for what it is. We see an assault on our children's innocence. You're absolutely right. But those children grow up. They do. We saw what happened. Think about a whole generation of young people taught the lost cause. Taught the lost cause, Nicole. And they grew up. And what did they do, many of them? They were in those mobs that engaged in cruel, barbaric acts. They raised children who would then shout at folk in Little Rock and the like. We have to be better people if we're going to be a better and more just democracy. And this, to my mind, is at the heart of distorting and disfiguring the character of our children. And there's so much more to say here, from Missouri education department, school boards reneging on anti-racist platforms to Emmett Till monuments being shot up in Mississippi such that Biden has to make it a federal. All of this is a part of who we are. And unless we are honest with it, we can never change, Nicole. We will never change.
Let's have that. Yeah, we got to have that longer conversation tomorrow because I think there's some news on that front. I want to bring David Jelly in. I do have to share something. I think Mike Pence's fly is in my studio because we didn't cover him very favorably in the last hour. David Jelly, this goes to part of a conversation we had in the last hour. The bets Republicans are making are very cynical, and I would argue wrong. They're not sustainable. It's not sustainable to bet that our children will be damaged by the truth. Enough of us learn the truth and we're fine. The idea that you're going to not just erase the history of race, but you're going to rewire it to say it actually had pros and cons, roses and thorns, it's so sick. It feels like it deserves an emergency reaction. I didn't see that in the Republican Party from top to bottom, east to west.
Yeah, that's right, Nicole. And let me just say, anytime you and Eddie just want to keep talking, because I'm learning along with everybody else with Eddie's brilliance here. Look, I think, first of all, you do have to call out the lies, right? Classic Ron DeSantis, I didn't do this, but there's nothing wrong with it. He did do it, Nicole, and the way he did it was sequentially. He passed the anti-woke bill, called the anti-woke bill in Florida, which says white people should not feel guilty for anything in their past. That's at the root now of public policy in Florida. He then appoints the Florida Board of Education members, who then adopt curriculum that says what? Hey, white people shouldn't feel guilty for enslaving black people. In fact, they should take credit for the fact that through their generosity, slaves learned to be a blacksmith. So we call out the failure in leadership as it is. But how does it translate to the voter, the root of your question, Nicole? I think in a very simple way, what is bringing down the Republican Party today is on all the hardest issues we face, even cultural issues. People can immediately take the measure of a person and recognize, are they working in good faith or bad faith towards equity or against equity? And so on the question of race, you do not see in Ron DeSantis and other Republicans them working in good faith towards greater equity. You see them working in bad faith towards marginalizing minority communities and then telling you they're not doing it. On the question of immigration and the place of migrants in our society, at the root of their border policy is a xenophobia that says we don't want migrants here. It's a very bad faith position. It's not saying we're wrestling with policy to try to be more accommodating. That's not what they're doing. On questions of LGBT status, they're not working in good faith towards equity on some of the hardest questions we face today, including on equity for the trans community and others. They're working in bad faith to say you're not allowed to be that person that you are. And we're going to make sure you have to hide in the shadows if you are. They're not working in good faith towards an economy that lifts all people. They're saying the rich can get richer, we can take ours, and to the hell with the rest of them. That the fundamental tenets of republicanism today is bad faith. And it takes no voter, you don't have to follow the news every day to spot that in a leader. They're either working in good faith or bad faith. Today's Republicans are all agents of bad faith when it comes to public policy.
Amen. I mean, I think that's exactly right. And that's such it's an umbrella that you can't disprove. You cannot find an example where they're doing the opposite, where they're working in good faith. Eddie Glad and David Jolly, always my favorite part of the show, and I get to talk to both of you. To be continued. Thank you both so much. Shifting gears for...
So, my wonderful people, let me say this, and repeat this once again. Slavery was what? Slavery was an evil, demonic, sinful institution destroyed by a multiracial coalition, better known as abolitionists. There is no greater example of silence as complicity. Slavery, human trafficking, is free labor. You work night and day and night, and you're paid zero. And slavery, human trafficking, was a 24/7 opportunity to commit lustful crimes on the slave woman, the slave man, and slave children without consequences. 400 years. Teach the truth to all. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the resurrected Savior from the grave. The Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed One. The Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. The Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Said in Matthew, go to Matthew, chapter 7, and verse 12, in the New International Version. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And I suggest that you go to JSFLJ and type in Jesus Christ requires, and you'll get more scriptures that will help you, more scriptures that will lift up your knowledge, more scriptures that will aid you in the truth. Remember what Jesus said in John chapter 8 and verse 32? And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. God bless you, and God keep you. There's one race, the human race. We're all human, and everyone has a right to life, liberty, and sweet happiness. Everyone on this planet, known as Earth. Bless you.